Hello, 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 everyone. Great to see people coming in and everyone that's in the webinar. Um, Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you here today. And I just want to start with introductions as we let people coming in. I can see more and more people are coming in. Thank you to everyone who is joining us live on Facebook. You are welcome to this session of the 68th Annual Commission of the Status of Women, better known as CSW. My name is Vicky Wambura, and I am your host today as we gather on UN's largest gathering of gender equality and women's empowerment. We're excited to be here today, and we are gathered here courtesy of DOT, the Digital Opportunity Trust. As many of you may know, DOT exists to reach underserved and disadvantaged communities with digital literacy and 21st century skills for an inclusive digital community. You can learn more about DOT through the link that's going to go into the chat. So if you have access to the chat, please check out that link. We'd also love to know where you're from, so please let us know where you're joining us from today. Really get to know you more, and hopefully during the breakout sessions, we can get to hear from you. I hope we're all doing great. I wish I could see all our faces. Fantastic. So today we are especially excited to be here to celebrate the launch of the second Impact Makers Advisory Board, better known as IMAB. We'll get to know more about IMAB and to meet the faces behind IMAB later in this session. But just first things first, this year's theme at CSW is accelerating the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls, addressing poverty and strengthening institutions and financing a gender perspective. Today, we are privileged to be joined by entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers who are championing innovative financing for youth as they discuss challenges and opportunities for MSME financing in Africa. As we get ready to kick off the official part of this session, I once again would like to say thank you to everybody for joining us, for those who are watching us live. So I hope that you get to have a fantastic discussion and get to know more about what it is that we are doing with IMAB. To give you an overview of just what is to come, we'll hear a keynote speech from our regional vice president. We'll also get to have introductions of IMAB, have a fireside chat, and go into breakout rooms. And then we'll come back in with a summary and next steps. But first, a bit of housekeeping. Just like to remind everyone who is joining us on the webinar to keep your microphones on mute. You may have your videos on. Would love to see you. Love to see your faces. But also you're welcome to just add in your comments or questions in the chat, and one of our team members will be happy to address them. So now, without any further ado, I am happy to welcome Paul Mpokwa to officially open this session. Hi, Paul, and welcome.
Hello, Vicky. Thank you very much for that warm welcome. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us today on this momentous day as we launch the Regional Impact Makers Advisory Board for Africa, or as we simply like to call it, IMAB. My name is Paul. I'm a project manager for innovative finance at DOT, but I'm also leading on the implementation of this advisory board. Now, I'd like to spend just a few minutes to tell you a little bit more about what IMAB is, the background, objectives, and the composition as well. To start off with a bit of a background, IMAB as a concept was originally co-designed in 2021, so it's been a while. But those who took part in it were the entrepreneurs from within the DOT network, but also the funders from Africa and across the world. As we got together at that time, the biggest question that we had in mind was, how do we close the funding gap between funders who were in the room and the micro, small, and medium enterprises here in Africa? So today, as we officially launch this regional IMAB for Africa, the board is being positioned to offer advice and strategic guidance to early stage micro, small, and medium enterprises that are part of the DOT programming, while also leading the charge in developing innovative financing solutions tailored for early stage MSMEs in pursuit of initial seed funding for growth and sustainability. Now, again, as we relaunch, we've got 4 objectives in mind that we want to share with you. But the first one is that we want this Impact Makers Advisory Board, these talented board members, to champion innovative financing for MSMEs. What simply this means is non-traditional approaches to raising and allocating financing for MSMEs to drive sustainability. This could be crowdfunding, asset financing, fintech partnerships, you name it. Anything really that is non-traditional but could bring seed funding for the MSMEs, the seed funding that they really need. But that's not the only objective. We've got 4. The second one is supporting partnerships development. They will be the voice of the MSMEs in terms of what is really needed, providing access to new networks of funders or contacts with access to resources essential for growth of these MSMEs. But the third objective is to offer thought leadership. These are talented leaders. We want to position them to shape the narrative, influence trends, and drive transformative conversations through panel discussions, keynotes, forum contributions, podcasts, blogs, etc., etc. But the last objective is that we hope that these IMAB members start serving as a catalyst for a community of practice. All of you who have joined us today, you're going to be part of that community of practice, and you're already part of that community of practice. The question is, how do we use the IMAB members? How do we leverage them as champions for fostering collaborative engagement, knowledge sharing, and exchange of best practices within our ecosystems where DOT operates? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really, really pleased to let you know that we have onboarded 8 extremely talented IMAB members. Some of them worked for impact financing organizations. Some of them have gone on over the years to found and build youth-saving organizations. And some of them are even our DOT Youth alumni who've been part of our programs. So this is a dynamic group of youth. Over the coming days, we will be spotlighting each one of these members across our social media platforms for you to get to know them just a little bit better. They're all joining us in the room today, so you'll get to meet them, most of them, in the panel discussions that follow and the breakout room sessions as well. Violet is our regional vice president for Africa, and there's nobody better to come along and say a few words of welcome on this particular day. So without wasting any more time, without any further ado, I would like to welcome Violet, who is our inspirational leader, to say a few words, to welcome all of you in the room with us today, but also to welcome our Impact Makers Advisory Board members. Violet, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Violette Uwamutara, and I'm the Regional Vice President of Africa Digital Opportunity Trust. A warm welcome to everyone. It is indeed tremendous to see so many young people from DOT Network and beyond gathered together in one virtual room. I can feel the energy, the excitement, and I can sense your passionate commitment to women's leadership, gender equality, and addressing poverty financing with a gender perspective. And that is why we're here today. Front of mind for DOT, as we continue our work, is how to close the funding gap between the funders and the fundees. We all know from a number of reports and articles that youth-led social enterprises struggle with the current funding system. The system puts young entrepreneurs in a double bind, which exacerbates 4 main challenges often faced by young entrepreneurs or social innovators. We know them all: access to finance, lack of specialized skills, difficulties navigating the legal frameworks, and a lack of visibility of youth-led social enterprises. Challenges that keep the sector and the system exclusive and limiting. The funding gap is characterized by a lack of trust between funders and fundees, and the tendency for the funders to overlook the new and young entrepreneurs and exclusionary criteria, and it creates ongoing struggles for young entrepreneurs to access funding and resources to sustain their businesses. At DOT, we believe that through our programs, seed fund grants, connecting networks and mentors, promoting young entrepreneurs, stories, role models, and partnering with them, we can and will respond to these challenges and accelerate the achievements, growth, and impact of the sector. It's all about trust. We all know young people in the room, you know, you're resilient, you're creative, you're innovative, you're action-oriented, you're tech-savvy. Young people have experience, passion, and first-hand knowledge and insights rooted in the challenges, needs of their communities. Hence, they are best positioned to develop locally relevant solutions. So trust, when youth have access to capital, they will invest it back in their communities. And so it's with this trust plus skills, access to capital, and connections to an enabling environment, we see young entrepreneurs thrive. But what more can we do within this system? We know youth-led social enterprises, they face difficulties in accessing loans or grants, as many lack collateral, personal savings, or demonstrated experiences. And the investors and donors, they may be less familiar with the social enterprise legal forms. And the hybrid business models, they like to rely both on market income and grants. So these are the things that the traditional system and its actors are still working out. And so what's the solutions and why are we here today? Innovative financing, going beyond, but still complementing traditional donor financing like grants and contribution agreements to achieve sustainable development results. Maximizing finance for development will require us to develop innovative ways to complement donor financing. The system needs innovation, and who better to offer that than the creative and innovative minds of young people who are disruptors and outside of box thinkers. That is why we are so thrilled today to be launching the Impact Makers Advisory Board with all of you. As Paul shared, IMAB will be championing innovative financing. They'll be offering thought leadership, advices, strategic guidance on the social entrepreneurship ecosystem, and much, much more. I am super excited for the leadership and the efforts our IMAB will be leading over the next 2 years. Our newly formed IMAB has many individuals coming from diverse backgrounds with a wealth of experiences and perspectives. Together, through a catalyzing community of practice, I believe can be the disruptors and help to shift the systems to be inclusive, equitable, and responsive to our present and future generation. This is where our esteemed IMAB members come to play. And so with this diverse background and wealth of experience and expertise that they bring on the table is invaluable. From Desiree's expertise in grants and partnerships to Anna Bahati's expertise in addressing the gender and skills gap, and Davis with the insights on entrepreneurship in the continent. Each member contributes unique insights that enrich our discussions and inform our decisions. And so I'm really looking forward to hear from all of you today. And for the next 2 years, what IMAB will do to close the funding gap and support young women and men to grow and sustain their businesses. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Murakoze. Shukran. Amasignalu. Sikomo kwambili. Midiase webarenyo. Thank you, Mono. Thank you. Over to you. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you so much, Violet. Shukran. Thank you, Mono. That is fantastic. We have heard it from our regional vice president. And the mark of a good speech is that you don't have to add on to that. So fantastic. Thank you so much. But we've also just seen that we are all about young people and championing the innovative ideas of young people. And we'll jump into the next session where you'll really get to hear from the horse's mouth just about what it is that our young people are doing, what IMAB members are doing. And really glad to see the comments in the chat, to see where you're from. I'm seeing a good representation from Tanzania, Malawi, Rwanda. So fantastic to have you all here. And I'm sure you will be really glad to see that also our IMAB members are representatives of these countries across Africa. So we are really about being local and having our local and innovative solutions for our own communities. So now we are going to jump into another exciting session where we'll have a fireside chat with some IMAB members, and Paul is going to be leading on that. So Paul, I will hand this over to you. I know it's going to be a fantastic discussion. People, please put your comments in the chats. We want to hear from you. We love to read your comments. Welcome very much.
Well, thank you so much, Vicky. And thank you as well, Violette. What a powerful message. I really appreciate it. Well, so in the room, I'm joined by Benson and Winnie, who are the newly selected IMAB members. First of all, I just want to say, Benson and Winnie, congratulations for getting selected as IMAB members. But before we kick off our conversation on the challenges and opportunities of MSME financing, please just briefly tell us, I know who you are, I know very well who you are, but I want you to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and the work that you do. I'll start with you, Winnie, and then Benson, you follow.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Welcome everyone today. I'm happy to see the great numbers of youth that are here today. My name is Winnie Watera. I'm a Ugandan based in Kampala. I'm a newly elected member of the IMAB, and I'm excited for this opportunity to share my expertise with each and every one of you on the program. For work, I work with the Women First International Fund, which provides grant funding to women-led and women-serving organizations in Africa, in East Africa particularly, and South Asia. We do a lot of grant-making work and support women and trans people across these areas. Professionally, I'm a development economist, so I'm happy to share insights on what I know about development, about financing, and how to close the financing gap on the continent for young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Winnie. Benson, over to you.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome everyone. Benson Maina is my name. I am a youth program consultant. Currently, I run an organization by the name Fanikisha Ndoto Youth Program that aims to bridge the gap of skills for the people who maybe felt that education is not my line. So we are bridging that gap to also enable them with the digital skills and also skills that will help them to utilize their talent and what they have in their hearts. I am also adult youth, having been a facilitator with DOT. My experience spans with public service. I have also worked with the NGO, and I have also worked with the private sector, where I do most of work in terms of consultancy. I'm delighted to be in this meeting today, and I'm hoping that beside the sharing that we will do of the many things that we'll talk about on MSMEs, I am also open to learning from this diverse group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benson, and Winnie as well, for that brief but comprehensive introduction. Just to kick off our conversation, I want to share an insight that I read from a report by World Bank, which classified a majority of businesses in Africa as being MSMEs, over 90% actually. So, which means, you know, almost every business that we come across with on a day-to-day basis, they fall under this category. The report also stated that over 40% of these micro, small, and medium enterprises face challenges in accessing funding for growth. So this is a relevant and substantial challenge that entrepreneurs, especially youth entrepreneurs, are facing. So Benson, I will start with you because I know you have a wealth of experience as an agripreneur in Kenya. You've done this for years. How do we support the youth to proactively respond in terms of spearheading a revolution in access to financing opportunities? Because Violet spoke well. She said, we can and will respond to these challenges. But how do we get the youth to actually do this proactively? Tapping from your experience, of course.
Thank you, Paul. With my experience and most probably working with the youths, I believe that even having that information being at hand, that the youth know this is what is available for me, is a plus for the youth who is seeking opportunities. But where do we start? I think the main thing is on the issue of dissemination of every information that is there, may it be in the web, may it be in information that you get in the local setup. And these days, I always say we have the advantage of technology. So first, we need to embrace the issue of technology. Let's our youths that know that the technology that we have can be utilized for the good and not just being online just for the sake. We can get useful information from there are so many sites. One being Opportunity Desk, Opportunities for Africa. There are so many sites. So one is embracing technology, and it's the simplest technology that we use in each and every day, be it Facebook, be it Twitter, be it Instagram. Those are the one that we need first to embrace. Number two, we also need to embrace the aspect of networking and collaboration. I think there is a saying that says, show me your friends and I'll know who you are. So if you teaming up with friends who I may say they have little knowledge on what your business needs, and I think these days people always make that joke that people are calling each other for baby showers why not call me for even a business shower? I'm opening a business. So we need to embrace also that aspect that let's have that encouraging effort of to encourage others that this is how it should be done, or there is this information. Because one thing you realize in our Africa setup, or even a closer home here in Kenya, you realize that me as a youth, despite having the knowledge that I may have, or the information that I may have, and the opportunity, if an opportunity is a tick for me, I may be skeptical in sharing it with Winnie. But why? Maybe my thinking is that this opportunity, if I share it with Winnie, I may not get it next time. But I think opportunities are not limited. The more you share, the more you open up to more spaces of opportunity. And number 3 is on the issue of advocacy on policies. There are so many, I think, across Africa, in the many countries that we have so many good policies advocating for financing of SMEs, advocating for support to business owned by youths, PWDs, and all those. But the policies are so good in paper, but no one knows about it. Yeah, so we need also that advocacy on policies, because I know us being organized in maybe an SME group, we might be needing maybe to access there is the Africa Free Trade Area, but we don't even know how we will start to maybe market our Masai sandals to Africa. So there is that need to go forth and seek for information. How best do I utilize these policies that is there? And number 4, it's the issue on research and development. And I believe this will come in place in terms of the same networking and collaboration, whereby you are able to meet people, you can help each other in sharing information. Maybe I don't have the skill of doing even the simple bookkeeping that financiers will always look at. So you will be able to have that aspect of research and development that you can be helped from the network that you have. You are able to get such information. Thank you.
Thank you, Benson. I really appreciate that response. Winnie, you're a grant maker, you're a funder. Do you react proactively in closing this funding gap?
We try, but I think we could do better. I think we have a lot of work to do, and we need to go back to the drawing board to figure out what this is. Paul, you talked about it with your preamble, and you said that almost there's a 40% funding gap for SMEs in Africa. And a lot of the times we notice that our funding trends always go to already over served areas, and we leave underserved areas like the fresh Africa. It's no secret that Africans are very entrepreneurial. I know you've had this everywhere. Uganda is one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the world, but how many businesses live to see their first birthday? And among the several things that cause that is that financing is just not there for them. I think we need to identify what the gap is, and it goes back to Benson's point of research. We need to invest in research. We will not get the answers to what we're seeking unless we invest in understanding what the gaps are. The other thing is that, again, the trends are showing us that we're just not funding women. And based on the theme of this year's CSW, we see that it's a fact. Only 2.2% of venture capitalists or funding went to women-owned businesses. And what does that say for the broader context of things? It means that these businesses won't thrive, and the conversations that we're having about gender equality in the space and the economic landscape will just continue dwindling. I know we've made gains in this area, but also I feel like we take steps back when we overlook certain important things like women entrepreneurs. And I think it's very important to note that. Also, as we fund, we need to look at things of intersectionality. Even in the statistics, we see that a lot of underfunded people are Black people, which are the majority of women in Africa, or women entrepreneurs in Africa are Black. So if even those important things are overlooked, these trends are going to continue happening. I think the other issue that we should really put a finger on and put our foot down is understanding the context that we work in. Oftentimes, us as funders, we tend to want to replicate what worked elsewhere with what worked in a new area. Someone will bring, a funder will only want to fund something that probably worked in North America and want to bring it to Africa. Consumer behaviors are different, traditions, the social, economic, political systems are quite different. So if you just want to replicate things the way they are, it possibly won't work. You'll continue asking the questions of where are these businesses that we need to fund? It's because we don't understand the contexts sometimes in which we tend to work, or among the people we purport to work for. So I think it's really important to do that, but also be flexible enough to pivot where things don't work. Okay, you brought your project, or you say you only fund this particular bit of things. If it's not working in Africa, how do you enable these businesses pivot to what's actually working, and ensure that it's also sustained? Oftentimes, again, of course, we are afraid of how do we invest in areas that we don't know. But one of the things that SMEs will tell you that sustainability is really important. If you give me funding for just 6 months and expect me to like thrive and grow, I think we're missing the point here. Again, it goes back to my point of a lot of businesses don't live to see their first birthdays. It's because we just don't give them time. And it's like, it's a growth stage. The beginning, where you start to figure things out, and the takeoff stage. Oftentimes, funders will jump off at this initial point because they have given you funding, and it has probably not worked in the way that they hope it will work. And I think it's important that sustainability is incorporated into different funding mechanisms that exist, both the traditional and even the ones that we're just trying to figure out, the non-traditional areas. And also, I just wanted to reiterate Benson's point of advocacy for change. We need to be able to support, able to support our partners to push for this change. Funding doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are a lot of things that have to, like it's a machine, like if there's a cog in one area, it probably won't move. So I think it's important to enable our partners push for change. Things like taxes in countries like the one I come from, Uganda, will cripple our business. Things like basic infrastructure for me to move my products from A to B. And if those things don't work, if they're not in sync, definitely we're going to have issues. So I think it's also important as funders to support our local partners in whatever context they're working to push for this change. And again, it goes back to Benson's point. Those networks are important. When you move alone, you just move a short distance. When you have a collective voice, which I believe the youth have, I think we can see more change in the arena that we're talking about. But for me, those are the key points. We need to fund underserved areas, fund women, fund sustainability, be able to understand the context that we work in, but also support our local partners to push for the change that enables the environment to work for them.
Fantastic, Winnie. You've spotlighted women a little bit there, and I appreciate that, which makes a perfect segue for my next question. We are on the 68th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, and we know for a fact that historically women have been underfunded compared to men in entrepreneurship, all cycles of entrepreneurship. Benson, I know that you've have experience in this area because you've managed the Affirmative Action Fund for years in Kenya, where more than 200,000 women were impacted. What lesson do you bring from your experience managing that fund and being part of the team that drove impact for those women in Kenya? Benson, I think you're muted. I think you're on mute.
Sorry for that. I think one of the things I need to appreciate in terms of the women that I have empowered through the Affirmative Action Fund is that already women are realizing the same way Winnie is saying that they are underfunded. So in their own groups in the local setup, like here in Kenya, they have what we call community-based organization. They have been able to come up with those groups that they are doing what we call table banking. They bring their what they have in the table, and they are able to help a women A who needs to buy a tank to improve stock in her kiosk. So they are appreciating and they already know there is that challenge that if I sit here with Benson, Benson may end up getting funding and I may not get funding. So they have come up with their own ways of having to raise finances. And I think with the across Africa, we have seen even the governments themselves coming up with structures to empower women. Here in Kenya, we have what we call the affirmative funds. We have the affirmative policies that even in the local representation, we are having the one that gender rule that in every elected post, we have to come up with a post for the women, and in addition to that, we have what we call the women representatives. So we are seeing that shift from the traditional way of thinking that women cannot be leaders, women cannot run business, and actually. From the success stories that I have heard mostly in the small livelihoods activities that these women undertake, you get that almost 80% are run by women. So there is that effort that even women themselves are putting across. You see, they are doing very well in agribusiness. They are doing well in the small cottage industries that they are setting up. So they have already appreciated that we need to come out of our cocoon to come up with our own ways of doing this. And number two, they are also seeking for information. Having organized these groups in the community-based organization, they already have the effort to bargain that they can call even a trainer to come and train them. How do we do this? How do we go along with the issues of bookkeeping? How do we, or what is required for us to get here? Here in Kenya, we have what we call access to government procurement opportunities. They are also getting into those businesses that have been left out initially, what we call the tendering process in government. So they are getting into that through these community-based organization, in that they take the groups as their advocacy groups, that we can set these representative from this group to have us being represented and know what is happening here in the crowd, and also what other organizations are doing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Benson and Winnie. We've got about 5 minutes left. That's how you know the conversation has been fantastic. So I want to switch gear and discuss the role of digital innovation for a moment. Including advancements in mobile money payments and supply chain management, digital marketing tools, e-commerce, AI, et cetera. We know the potential that all these things have in terms of driving transformation of these small businesses, but also sustainability and attractiveness in general to the funders. My question is, this is a lot of work for small businesses. Are they incentivized to pursue such solutions, such innovations? Do you believe that? Winnie, I'll start with you.
Okay, I was wondering like who's going first. So we acknowledge that there have been advances, but I'd like to say, in my opinion, that there's just limited incentive to these technologies. And one of the reasons is just because there's just low investment in the area, in our context, especially in Africa, because we're talking about Africa. One of the things that one of the things that is an issue is actually access to some of these technologies. Oftentimes, that access is there for people who are in certain settings, urban settings, but we know when we compare the rural setting and the urban settings, the rural areas are more have more people, more entrepreneurs who are doing these small businesses than in the urban settings. Although in the urban settings, we'll talk about it more. Access is really low because there's poor connections. We are the mercy of the whims of our political leaders if they can be able to let the internet be on for some periods of time. So that is also like the lack of streamlining of certain aspects of our economies is a disservice to these small and medium enterprises. We can't talk about using technology without talking about access in terms of affordability. Of course, we understand that there are other mechanisms that have been put in place to support lower technologies, but we understand that if you're supposed to break into certain markets, you're supposed to have a certain level of technology that works for you. The affordability of these instruments or these gadgets is just through the it's through the roof. Once they come into the country, the taxes are exorbitant, which will make the end user say, I have to make my money back. So sometimes it's very just difficult to afford these technologies. The other thing is, and Benson hinted on it, is knowledge about technological advances. There's a correlation between education and access to information, access to knowledge on how these technologies work. If you just don't know how they work, you probably won't use it. You'll even feel a certain way once you're told, please go on the computer to apply for this opportunity with the Kenyan government to access the scheme that Benson talks about. So if the knowledge about these technological advances is not there, definitely people are not going to take it. The other thing, and I think that is the thing that is often overlooked, is biases in these technologies. Humor me, guys. How many of us can have the command of English, like have really got the command of English? A lot of these technologies are based on that. It's now that they're trying to do the language justice thing with technology, but as it is now, a lot of people are left behind. Someone will go on Facebook. Of course, there is Facebook Kiswahili, but how many dialects exist on the African continent? It leaves out a very huge part of people who would benefit from these technologies. So even as we're making technologies, it's important that we understand the contexts. And when all these compound, we understand that women are left behind even more. The statistics show that 48% of women have access to internet compared to the 58% of men. Only 21% of women are online. Like even in sub-Saharan Africa, it's even worse. So these investments, these technological advances are great, but it's also important to acknowledge that they're leaving a lot of people behind. And unless they catch up, we're going to have the gap just growing. That digital divide is just going to keep growing, and it will eventually for lack of a better word, spit out people who cannot catch up. And we don't want that to happen. We want all our youth to get on this wagon that takes us to see the Africa that we want. So it's important that we, as funders as well, because I'm on this panel as a funder, that we also fund and support technology of the people we support.
Thank you very much, Winnie. And I totally agree with you. I think there's never been a better time to be alive in terms of all these technologies and the transformation that is happening. And the speed at which is happening is unprecedented, really. But the question that I want to leave with everyone is, how do we make sure that we do not continue to open the gap into a chasm? How do we make sure that we leave no one behind? Because it's all a part and parcel of everything that we're trying to achieve with advancement of MSMEs entrepreneurship here in Africa. So as we go into the breakout rooms and as we continue the conversations there, maybe this is something that we'll talk about as well. And as we share back, hopefully we'll get insights from the rest of the group. Thank you very much, Benson. I really appreciate all your insights. Winnie as well, much appreciated. Vicky, I'd like to hand it over back to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul, Winnie, and Benson. What a fantastic kind of discussion, and just a snippet to see of the kinds of discussions that IMAB are having and the challenges that we are trying to tackle, and knowing that, you know, things have been done, but there's still a long way to go. And this is what we are up for. This is what we are trying to kind of ensure that we can get over this challenge. You know, and we keep saying that Africa is ours. We are Africans and Africa is our problem. We will sort it. We will solve these problems. And not even problems, they're challenges. And what an exciting time to be alive. So thank you so much, Winnie and Benson, for what you have already accomplished and what the things that you're grappling with even now and as we move forward. So I would love to hear from those who are in the room, those who are following us from Facebook. What are your key takeaways? What are your key takeaways from these discussions? And also, what are your thoughts around these discussions? I would love to hear this. We know that there are innovative kind of solutions that are happening. People in the room here who are messaging and saying, this is what I'm doing. Fantastic to hear that. We really want to see what is happening. So we're getting ready to go into our breakout rooms. And if you've, really enjoyed just that talk from Winnie and Benson, we have more IMAB members in the room to continue on with this fantastic discussions. So if you want to hear more, we'll go into the breakout rooms and you will join them. For those who are following us on Facebook, very sorry that we cannot take you into our breakout rooms, but please bear with us. We will be back. We will share a summary of what has been discussed, and then we'll go into the next steps. So as we are getting ready, you will see on your screen a request to join a breakout room will come up. Please click the request and join, and then you will be funneled through into your breakout room. And if you have any difficulties, do reach out. There's a team that is working behind the scenes and they would love to help. So just an overview of what our breakout rooms will be discussing. We've got 3 breakout rooms. We'll be discussing empowering women entrepreneurs through inclusive finance. And then you will meet Amisa and Winnie, who will continue on with this discussion. In breakout room 2, we have harnessing digital innovation for MSMEs financing, run by Anna Bahati and Desire. And then in the 3rd breakout room, we have building strategic partnerships to MSME innovating financing by Sarah and Miriam. So hopefully that, everyone will get a chance to be able to contribute, to share your own lived experiences and your thoughts, and then we'll bring it back into the main room where we will have a summary. So all the best and see you in the breakout rooms. We had 3 breakout rooms, and we'll just go into a session of giving a summary of what's been happening. So we just bear with us 1 more minute as people come back. I can see them quickly being rushed back into this main room. I hope everyone who's here had a fantastic time in the breakout rooms. Yeah, I can see some smiles, some nods. Fantastic. I really enjoyed our breakout room, and I am going to try to restrain myself from giving it away. So just to hear from the rest, is everyone back in? I hope everyone is back in from the breakout rooms. And we essentially will just give a summary. One person nominated to come back in and give a summary of what has been discussed. It's really exciting for me, and especially I just kind of want to raise this to Paul to just see some of the themes that are coming out from what we have discussed even with the past IMAB, and now we can still see them coming through. So that will be really interesting to connect these dots. So can I go to, where do we start with breakout room? Let me see from my notes. Breakout room 1, which was Amisa and Winnie. This is empowering women entrepreneurs through inclusive finance. Do we have a summary from this group?
We discussed a couple of things. So one of the things was the innovative approaches to ensure equitable access to financing for women entrepreneurs. And one of the things that stood out was affirmative action. Of course, we understand that the landscape is skewed far away from the women. So it's important to put in place systems that provide equitable access for women. We also talked about targeted financial literacy. And I think Maria gave an experience of a program that's in her community, and a lot of the women assumed that they would just be enrolled onto this program just because they are women, but it's important to be able to have targeted training on certain aspects that would make them eligible for the program. We also talked about the creation of new, but also collaborating with existing networks of women entrepreneurs. These women are organized, they're already doing things to support them, whether it's just something like table banking, they're already doing this. How do we support those groups? Because also it has some form of accountability process to it. I mentioned targeted financial literacy, but also this feeds into mentorship and training. I think it was Emma who talked about gender-sensitive policies at a broader level that support women, or that provide an enabling environment for women. We also talked about linking women to financial institutions, but also being able to support them to effectively engage with these financial institutions. We talked about building an ecosystem that brings together different stakeholders, the women themselves, people who work in the financial sector, to just communicate and see where they be a meeting of minds. Someone also talked about collaborating with government, because again, government is the biggest, I think, funder for certain entrepreneurship programs. We talked about providing technology to be able to propel these women to greatness, to be able to access markets, to be able to put their work out there so that they are known. We also talked about the he for she movement. We need male champions who can say that women are doing great, and it's not a competition. It's something that if we collaborate, inclusive societies propel economies further. We also talked about using innovative milestones, innovative methods to reach the last mile person. So for instance, if no one has access to smartphones, how do we use community radios to reach out to these women entrepreneurs? How do we use normal radio programming to be able to create awareness around women entrepreneurship? And last but not least, we talked about the role models. Like, a lot of women are afraid to even venture into entrepreneurship, and yet we have women who have succeeded, who have thrived in these areas. So these role models these women should be exposed to role models who have some experience, so that they're not afraid. We also talked about some of the experiences on practical solutions for fostering inclusive financial ecosystems. And I think it was Violet who talked about something that DOT does, where they give financial grants and the women can bank it, and it just create some sort of history, because that's what the banks want. The banks want to see that you're transacting in somewhere and they can trust you with their money. And I didn't mention this there, but we also Women First, we do give the women that we support tech grants so that they're able to, again, access markets, be able to put their work out there, but also give them like some sort of investment, which ties into what Violet said. It's just a nest egg, which you don't touch throughout your granting period with us, but it's an interest-bearing grant of sorts, so that it's used for sustainability in the future. Discuss the impact of the gender-sensitive financial products on MSMEs. And I think gender-sensitive products really put women on the map. It's not, they do mostly to encourage women to be able to know that they are being seen and they can have access to these things. So the impact goes beyond just the financial product. Builds self-esteem, it builds it gets eyeballs on the work that they're doing. So that impact in itself will then have cascading impact, where they can access financing, where they can access venture capitalists and the like. Thank you.
Wow, wonderful. I can see you discussed a whole lot. I can tell why the time ran out, and that's really fantastic. And, just also seeing those connecting points with what you've just talked about on the small grants that go into the bank to build that trust, to build that track record, and was a challenge that was raised in our group that, what do we do about trust? Because these are the kinds of challenges that, people or young people can come through. So I really like that there is a solution there. And I hope everyone is kind of listening to this. And if you have, other ideas or things that you have seen are working where you are, about empowering women entrepreneurs through inclusive finance, and you know of them and hasn't been mentioned, please put it in the chat. Would love to hear that. As we move to the second breakout room, just to hear a summary as well, this breakout room discussed about harnessing digital innovation for MSMEs financing. So it was run by Anna Bahati and Desire. Is there anyone who has volunteered to do the summary? You're please welcome.
We had Alice. Alice will be representing us well.
Nice.
Okay,
welcome, Alice.
Okay, sure, thanks. My name is Alice Dambe. So we are going to talk about assigning digital innovation into these small and medium enterprises. And some of the discussions that we had in our group discussion was somebody saying that there is the aspect of generating capital into the businesses, lack of funding for especially the young innovators. And we were looking into that as a problem. How can we use technology to be able to come up with funding and be able to generate income for this for our small businesses and enterprises to be able to grow? And in our examples and contributions, people have said that we are able to utilize the banks, as been mentioned. You could get a loan from the banks, and nowadays you see that most of these banks have online platform, online applications. So you might need to be able to access these bank online services. And if you don't have the aspect of technology, because maybe lack of the training or the skills, you may not be able to access such services. So we were saying that there is the lack of capital is a challenge to the SMEs, and there is this solution that digital platform is offering us, that you're able to access this capital when you are able to navigate through the digital banking services. And also something that we mentioned as a group is the online presence, because we need to get our businesses out there in the website, in different social media platform. As a result, you are able to reach more customers. So that is a way that you can utilize we can leverage on technology as small business enterprises. Something else that our group mentioned was that so as people, as small businesses, we mentioned that there is also need to train these small people into small businesses on how to use technology, because there is that aspect of just knowing how to type star, just being able to type that in a phone and being able to access these online services. This aspect of knowledge, most of us probably do not have it, and there is the urge to provide the knowledge and the skills and the training. Also, small enterprises can also collaborate with the public sectors, or the public-private partnership was came up in our discussion, whereby you come together, and if you're a small business person and there is need to do mass production, you're able to do mass production, especially in an institution. We were using an example of one of our participants who was running a leather business, and he was saying there is the aspect of lack of funding, and we were trying to come up with a solution to that, whereby he can be able to collaborate with these institutions who do mass production, because in those institutions we probably have digitalized machines that can be used. We have when you're in the institution, you're also able to access skills to also get your businesses to another level. Maybe something that we all have mentioned about online presence that we mentioned, something else that we mentioned, just going through my notes. So there was also the aspect of these small businesses innovators, them having this knowledge and skills but not being able to show it to the world. So if they're given a platform to be able to showcase their innovations, then the people might get the attention of what they are doing, and as a result we can resolve the aspect of lack of funding and be able to get their businesses to another level. That is basically another online presence. If they get this platform, not just locally, if they're able to get this, their presence, especially globally, they'll attract maybe funders who are able to see whatever they're doing and also provide them with capital. I believe that would be all.
Thank you so much, Alice. Thank you. I know it's very difficult to summarize. So out of the interest of time, I see we have run over on time, and we would love to respect your time. We'll whiz through the last breakout room. So Elaine is going to be giving us a summary. Elaine, if we could keep it to 1 minute so that we can go to the next steps. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. In nutshell, in our breakout room, we discussed different aspects, and one of which was how to build strategic partnership for MSMEs, access financial services. Some of the things we've discussed, we have found that there are like several things which can be done, like identifying the key stakeholders. Here I mean financial institutions, government agencies, youth organizations, and the MSMEs Association to come together to address the challenges MSMEs are facing, and also they come together to create or to come up with a solution for MSMEs to access to the financial services. The second point we have found that can be done is also just to understand needs and the challenges. Here I mean in terms of conducting research and engaging with MSMEs and youth entrepreneurs to understand their specific financial needs and challenges in order to create solutions for what they need as MSMEs. Another point we have discussed about is just to develop tailored financial products, work with the financial institutions to develop innovative financial products and services tailored to the needs of MSMEs and the youth entrepreneurs. As I mentioned in our previous session, where I asked our panelists about what can be done as a financial institutions for addressing the issue of tailoring services MSMEs can fund themselves. Another key point we discussed, we talked about local financial institutions like SACCOs, and we discussed about how these SACCOs, MSMEs can benefit from them, and also the challenges which are on the ground, and how can these challenges can be addressed in nutshell. So for for the some of the challenges we have seen that like these local financial institutions are still having like a limit in terms of amount of the funds of the loan they are giving to MSMEs. Another point we have seen that these SACCO services or products are based on government-based services. Like here in my country, in Rwanda, we have what you call Umurenge Sacco and Umwalimu Sacco, where it is very difficult for MSMEs to fund themselves just fitting on those products. The last but not the least point we discussed, we have found that some different local financial institutions are just lacking this amazing solution of technology adaptation, because we see that as young entrepreneurs, we want just to do different activities without just struggling, where we can use our gadgets to access to the loan services, to access to our bank accounts, just tracking the different services of the financial institution product or services without just walking miles going to their office. So we have found that these local financial institutions are just missing that's a good point of technology part. In nutshell, I think that is what we have discussed. But if there are some of the points I've missed, my colleague from Zambia can just add on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aline. Fantastic. I believe we've had such a great discussion in our different groups, and I want to say thank you so much for everyone for participating, for contributing your thoughts, your ideas, and even just the challenges that remain, and really showing us, bringing to the surface the work that is still yet to be done. And this is why we are here. IMAB is such a small part to be able to tackle some of this, but we are also hoping to create a community of practice that Paul talked about at the beginning of this session. And I will invite Paul to come and give us a wrap up of this session, and also next steps of how we can still be part of this community, contribute the ideas that are needed to kind of move us forward. So Paul, I welcome you in to wrap up and to tell us about the next steps of how we can all get engaged.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, especially for staying a few minutes over. I feel like we could have gone on for another hour. This is how the quality of the conversation has been really good. I hope and believe that it's been worth it. As Violet said, we can and will respond to these challenges. So that's something that I want to leave you with. But one thing that we will continue to do is not leave these conversations in this chat room here today. We want to continue these conversations by continuing to build a community of practice. So please connect with us on our social media platforms as we continue to run a campaign on IMAB, so that to make sure that you don't miss a bit. We will continue to communicate exactly what the next steps are through our platforms and how you can continue to be part of our community of practice. With that said, I would like to wish you a lovely rest of the morning, day, or evening. It's been most fantastic hosting you. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.